My name is Josephine Markison. I'm known on social media as Harley Renee. I wanted to talk to you guys today about a broken system that so many kids fall into. The foster care system, the residential treatment facility systems, just the cycles and systems that wards of the court have to go through. When I was 14 years old, I resided with family. I stayed with a cousin. She seemed okay at first. She seemed perfect, like you wanted to be in her home, but you knew deep down inside you that if you made her mad or ticked her off, she would turn on you. Anyway, at 14 years old, I was placed with this cousin out of my mom's home for neglect and abuse. I was taken away from my mom and given to my dad's family. My father is wrapped up in his own life right now. He's still my best friend to this day. But he could not take care of me. So he gave me to his niece, who is my cousin, and told her, hey, do what you gotta do for her. Whatever you gotta do, just do it. At the time, I was also struggling and fighting depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety. I was hearing voices. I was self-harming on a daily basis. I was lying, cheating, stealing, whatever troubled kids do, I was doing it. And I own that. 100% I own that. I know I hurt my family, and I know that I did damage that I can never undo. I'm aware of this. However, as a family, it's your job to understand the child that's having issues. It's your job to find the best help and the best route for them, whether that's residential treatments, whether that's therapy, whether that's outpatient treatment, whatever the case is, it is your job as that child's family member to find them the help that they need and most deserve. I was thrown into a residential treatment facility, and I do not agree with that at all. Yes, I have depression, and I'm 28 years old right now, and I still fight depression. It's not something that goes away. You're never going to get rid of it. You are never going to just wake up okay. And you're never going to feel the way you felt ever again. You lose that part of yourself forever, and there's no amount of medication, no amount of therapy, there is no amount of group therapy that's ever going to give that feeling that you had before your depression back to you. It is up to you as the survivor and the fighter of depression to find that happiness within your depression, and I understand that. I was able to do these things. I was still communicating with my friends. I had a boyfriend. I was getting good grades at school. I just had problems at home. Excuse me. I just had problems at home. So I go into her home, the cousin's home, and everything is fine for 3-4 months, maybe? Something like that. It's 2007 when this is happening. Mind you, this is a long time ago. Almost 15 years ago, and I'm aware of that. So I go into her home, and I'm placed there by Department of Children and Family Services. I'm issued a worker, a guardian ad litem. If you don't know what a guardian ad litem is, a guardian ad litem is assigned to a ward, a foster child, upon entering the system so that they have a legal person to turn to. It is that she's basically the one that goes to court for me, answers to the judge for me, answers to anybody that wishes to speak to me. She answers to them for me because I was a minor and could not make decisions for myself. So she becomes a part of your team. She becomes right up there with your DCFS, CPS, whatever you guys call them in your state. She's right up there with your DCFS worker. So I had my DCFS worker, my guardian ad litem, and underneath that I had a district attorney or a judge that I answered to. I did not have parents. I went to school at a behavioral alternative school from the time I was 14 until I graduated. I was on my own. Anyway, so I'm living with this cousin and everything is fine and everything is dandy and hunky-dory, and her daughter comes up with this scheme that I've pushed her down the stairs. Okay? Now, every story has its own side, and that's fine. I'm okay with that, but here's my side of it. The cousin that accused me of doing this, my other cousin's daughter, was presented no injuries to the police. She presented no injuries in court. She presented nothing. Nothing. She had no legal foot to stand on saying that I pushed her down a flight of stairs. I would like to add that I have 2 beautiful children of my own, and I love them very much, and I have never, ever, ever been ever legally involved with the state or anything otherwise for child abuse. Just throwing that out there. I am not that person. So, after these allegations are made, she makes the choice to commit me to a hospital. I go into Genesis Health System down here in the Quad Cities. I live in Davenport, Iowa. I am placed into Genesis Healthcare, and I'm left there. I come out about a week later, get my way through it, get my meds adjusted, whatever they need me to do, I'm doing it, okay? I'm talking, whatever, I don't even know why I'm here, but all right, I'll take your word for it, whatever. Just whatever I had to say, whatever I had to do to get myself out of there to be back with my family, I did it. And I will not lie to you. When you are stuck in a residential treatment facility and you are stuck in a hospital, you are going to say whatever the hell they want you to say. You're going to do whatever they want you to do. You're going to do it with a smile on your face practically. And you might not want to do it, but you know deep down inside of you that this is how I'm getting out of here. This is the only way out. And it starts to scare you, because you get scared of what's going to happen to you. So I get out of the hospital and I go home, and everything is fine again. Everything is, oh, we're so happy you're home. We're so happy you're here. We missed you. The normal abusive people spiel. The normal, we love you so much, and we hope that you're doing okay, and let's just forget it happened. Sorry. Stuff like that. It was just little stuff. Like, they were okay with me being home. They were okay with seeing me. They were okay with me hanging out with the kids. It was like nothing had ever happened. Another week or so after that, the little cousin, the big cousin's daughter, goes back up to my cousin and says, she's doing this and this to me. I'm not comfortable with her being in this house, and I want her gone. In a matter of words, I'm not exactly sure what was said to my cousin. I'm not exactly sure where and how it took place. I wasn't there for that conversation. I must have been at school or practice or something. Mind you, after school, I was also in cheer. I was doing volleyball. I was playing sports. I was in karate. So I had time to be a kid, to let my negative emotions out. And I did that through my karate, through my volleyball, through my cheerleading. I had to find something to help me cope. So that's what I did. I had a lot of sports, a lot of extracurricular activities. I don't understand how I even had time between all of that, plus choir. God, I forgot about choir. Plus choir and show choir, to even have time to be abusive to it, at the time, 7-year-old child. So the cousin approaches me again and says, you need to come with me, get in the car. So anyway, the cousin comes up to me and says, we need to go, you need to get in the car, just come with me. Doesn't tell me to pack anything, doesn't tell me to bring anything with me. Just let's get in the car. Weird, right? Right. Okay. So let's get in the car. We're going to go for a ride. I don't know what she said to me, but it was get in the car. Come with me, get in the car. That I do remember. So I get in the car and we start driving. And we are driving far. Okay? I mean, we're going pretty far. At this point, she would have had to have called my psychologist, my therapist, my pediatricians, anybody that had medical ties to me would have had to have been alerted that I was being moved to Iowa City to be placed. So we get out to Iowa City. Turns out we're going to Iowa City. Iowa City is the medical capital of Iowa, practically. We have a giant university out here. Excuse me. We have a giant university out here. Lots and lots of people go there for their mental health. They go there for pretty much anything. If you need a specialized doctor that knows what they're doing, if you need an existential doctor, you're going to Iowa City. That's how it works out here. So she drives me to Iowa City and she takes me in through the emergency department. She sits me down, she starts filling out paperwork, and she tells them that I need a psych evaluation and that she would like me placed into the hospital for behavioral and unmanageable anger issues, in a matter of words. That I'm violent, that I'm self-harming myself, which is not a lie. I wasn't violent, but I was self-harming myself pretty good. I have scars all over the place that I've since covered with tattoos. To cover up the fact that I have made scars on my body that I can never get rid of. So we go through and we do the psych eval and what have you. And this doctor walks in. He couldn't have been more than my age now, maybe 32, in his 30s, like I'd say his 30s. He walks in and he goes, "We don't have space for her here, Mrs. Walters. We just don't have the space. You're going to have to take her somewhere else, or you're going to have to relinquish her here and safe haven her." By that time, my cousins, it was like 2 in the morning. My cousins just wanted to go home. They wanted to get to their kids. Understandable, whatever. So they relinquished me. Right there in that hospital, they relinquished me. They tell me, "We'll get your stuff to ya. We will figure out what to do about your money in your bank account," which I never saw, by the way. She embezzled that money and took her kids to Walt Disney World. I have proof of that. She basically left me there to rot, okay? And mind you, I was on so many medications at this point that a lot of it is blurred. But what I am telling you, I can confidently tell you I remember, because the things that I do remember are the most traumatic. I don't remember the little shit. I don't remember the small stuff. But everything I'm telling you right now is everything I've experienced with her. So she leaves me at this hospital and they go ahead and start looking for beds. Normal routine. Let's find her somewhere to put her. Let's put her into a room with no tubing, no nothing. Let's just put her in a whole, it's basically like a room with a bed that's bolted to the floor. The mattress doesn't come up like it does, but you can't go very far with it because it's really heavy. But you're not doing anything in that room. You're just chilling. You're just going to chill until we figure out what to do with you. So I'm sitting in this holding tank, as us Resi kids call it. I'm sitting in a holding tank, and they finally find me placement in Streamwood, Chicago, at like 5 in the morning. It was fun. They load me into an ambulance, and they get me sent out to Streamwood. I'm at Streamwood for over a month. Yeah, about a month. I'm at Streamwood. From Streamwood, I was transferred back into Genesis because I had outgrown Streamwood. I was successfully done, and they decided to go ahead and transfer me back into Genesis to wait placement. I was given back to my county and said, okay, you could just hold her at your hospital until a residential comes along that that has a bed for her. I was then thrown back into Genesis. I stayed there for about another week. And then my cousin showed up unexpectedly, and said, "We found a placement for you, and I think you're going to like it. It's like a giant school with kids your age, and you're going to have so much fun." And any lie she could tell me to get me into the back of her car, she told me. Let's go get something to eat. Let's go. Well, we can talk about this. I remember her saying, "We can talk about this. But I need you to come get your stuff and come with me." So she texts me out of the hospital and drives me out to Sioux City, Iowa, which is 7.5 hours away from home. She took me 7.5 hours away from my mom and dad. She took me 7.5 hours away from my sisters and brother. She alienated me from my family on that day. Ever since I was placed into residential, I am not allowed to see my siblings. I'm not allowed to talk to my siblings. I'm sorry. Because the stigma that's put around us kids when we're like that is that we're bad and we deserve nothing because we don't deserve anything because we've been bad, right? I wasn't bad. I just needed help. And nobody wanted to give me that help. Nobody wanted to sit me down and say, "Look, this is your only option. This is where you're headed. This is where you're going to end up." Nobody did that to me. They just did it. This is not how you treat a family member. This is not how you treat your child. This is not how you treat your cousin. This is not how you treat anybody in your family, folks, ever. When you have mental health issues, you can't control them. I could not control when I wanted to hurt myself. I could not control when I wanted to beat the living crap out of somebody. I could not control any of that. Any of it. None of it. I couldn't control any of it. I had no control over who I was becoming, over who I had been. I had no control over Josie anymore. Josie was not in the driver's seat. Something inside of me took over, and it left me empty and completely alone. And nobody understood that. Everybody saw me as a troubled child or a burden or disturbed, sick. Gotta love the word sick. It was used in my family like water. She's sick. That was their biggest excuse for, it's still their excuse now. Who am I kidding? She's sick. I went into Sioux City Boys and Girls Home on March 20 something, 2007. 2007. No, 2008. Sorry. My apologies. 2008. I went into Sioux City Boys and Girls Home. It was a residential treatment facility. It is located in Sioux City, Iowa. I am not going to give too many details because it is still an operating facility now, and I do not wish them any harm. This facility was not anything like my cousin had said it was going to be. It was nothing. It was nothing there. There was nothing but mean staff, mean girls, and women that had far many more problems than I did. These girls were violent. They were very violent. These girls were just something out of a nightmare. They just needed a lot of help. And I know that. They were human. They just needed a lot of help. And some of them were like really nice. Like, I still have friends from residential. Brittany, how you doing? But Hazel, my friend from Pavilion, I still have friends from residential, don't get me wrong. I'm best friends with a lot of my girls. But anyway, so I go into Sioux City Boys and Girls Home, and I am told from the get-go, this is what you need to do to go home. This is what needs to happen.
You need to stop cutting. You need to start listening. You need to stop pushing people downstairs and being angry and violent. You will see a therapist twice a week for 45 minutes at a time. You will see her for 90 minutes total. You will go to group therapies. You will go to group sessions. You will participate in group activities. That is your ticket out of here, Josie, is what I was told. So, but what I wasn't told was the PRNs and the seclusion rooms and the fact that they're allowed to put their hands on you. They're allowed to manhandle you or your children. If you're an adult watching this, they will manhandle your child. They will manhandle your child. They will strap your child to a bed and they will inject your child with a mixture of Geodon, Trazodone, whatever it takes. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a nice healthy Xanax dose and a little bit of Geodon. And they're going to push that into your child. And they're going to put your child to sleep. They're going to sedate your child. Okay? I was never told of any of this. I was never told that if I acted out that somebody would be putting their hands on me and I would be taken to a seclusion room. A seclusion room is an empty room with 4 walls. They are brick. They are usually concrete with overlaid with epoxy so that you can't punch them, and mess up your knuckles. So, yes, this is my daughter. Please go play. So they never tell me that. Anyway, they never tell me that if you act a certain way, we're going to put our hands on you. And they never tell anybody that. Anyway, I'm sorry. She's great. I love her. They never tell me these things. They never tell me that they're going to put their hands on me if I act a certain way, that they're going to throw me into a room with epoxied walls and nothing in that room. I'm going to be stripped down to a gown, a hospital gown. I'm not even entitled to my clothes at that point, or my shoes, even like flip-flops. Like, I'm not entitled to anything on my person. My glasses are taken off of me. Any jewelry I had on me was taken off of me. So I'm going to be placed into this room if, I act away. So I go up to the unit, I'm introduced, and I'm told that this is your room, these are your living quarters, here's your roommate. They're making you sleep in a room with other girls that are having the same problems as you and could be dangerous to you. So you pretty much have to sleep with one eye open. To top that all off, you're usually on medication. So staying awake for any amount of time is very hard to do. You are taught that you speak when spoken to, you do as you are told, or you will be thrown into seclusion with a PRN. That is the fear they instill into you. You will do what I say, or I will place you in a restraint. I will throw you in seclusion, and I will put you to sleep. I have heard that out of so many staff members' mouths in that facility. It is unreal. I, do what I gotta do. About a year later, I phase out. Phasing out means your funding has run out, something has happened, and they can no longer fund your stay at that residential. Okay, so I phase out. I am then sent to an aunt and uncle on my mom's side of the family, where I stay till I'm about 16 years old. I'm already 15 at this point. I stayed there for about 5 months before they did the same thing because I was skipping school. I was not doing what I needed to do because Sioux City had let me go with no aftercare, no medication, no therapist, no doctors. Just here you go. Here's your kid back. Peace. That's what they did. Okay. And they are very wrong in doing that. Any good residential is going to leave you with aftercare, is going to leave you with someone to talk to. They're going to set you up with a therapist. They're going to make sure that you have a therapist before they even let you walk out the door. That is how it should have gone, and it didn't. So I was sent to my aunt and uncle. Um, my uncle Harold, he's passed away since then. I love him very much and I miss him every day. And his wife, I won't name her, my aunt. My aunt is a gold digger. For lack of better words, she's a gold digger. And again, I know every story has its own side. Whatever. That's fine. I'm cool with it. She's a gold digger. She married my uncle in the 90s after her husband tragically passed away, or whatever the case was, and left her with her twin girls. She needed someone to pay the bills. She has admitted that her and my uncle have never had correlations together. Literally, they're just not together. They're married but not together. So anyway, this aunt and uncle are she's married to him, but she doesn't whatever. So I'm trying to think. I was placed into their home with no aftercare, with no nothing. They placed me into Rock Island High School, which is the local high school, and I refused to go. I would go to school and then I'd turn around and walk right back out. Um, I was way, way worse off in that home with my aunt and uncle than I have ever been in my life. Um, that is the home that I tried to commit suicide in once and damn near succeeded. Um, about 4 or 5 months into it, like right when they relinquished me, I did try to commit suicide, as I had just said. I took an entire bottle of Tylenol, thinking it would solve something. Mind you, it was just one of the little ones. It wasn't one of the big ones. It was one of the little ones. It had like maybe 30 caplets in it. Um, so I took the little bottle of Tylenol and I choked it down with a crap ton of booze from the cabinet. Mind you, I'm not a drinker. I don't have any dependencies at this point, even though my family will tell you that I had many dependencies. I had none. I was a cigarette smoker, but I still am to this day. Other than that, I had no dependencies. I was not an alcoholic. I was not using drugs. Um, I was smoking cigarettes and the occasional joint with a friend because marijuana is the way that I was able to bring myself from here to about here. Okay. And to this day, it's the only way I can get myself to come from here to here. So when I go out to California every year to see my family, you best believe you're going to catch me at a dispensary, right? So I try to commit suicide. My boyfriend finds me. My boyfriend at the time, Nathan, finds me. He can't get into the house. Normally the doors are unlocked for him when my aunt and uncle are at Bible study because we usually hang out while my aunt and uncle are at Bible study so that I'm not left alone to my own devices. Um, it was a safety measure put in place to keep me safe, was to have somebody home with me at all times so that I was not left alone. And that's the point it came to. Like when you have mental health problems and issues and disabilities, it comes to that. I know plenty of people from residential now that still cannot live on their own, and that's okay. I'm 28 years old and I am successfully living on my own. I have my own house. I have my kids. I have a car. I am going back to school. I don't have a job right now because of the pandemic. Yay, COVID. But I have what I need right now. And I got here on my own. My residential journey is a scary one. It is a dark one. After the boys and girls home, I was then sent to Pavilion, which is another residential. It is in Champaign, Illinois. A really great facility. I can't thank them enough. I cannot thank them enough. Bill and Cassie and Susan and Dr. Levi and Kip and Brenda and Paul and just they all made the biggest difference in my life. And that is the most amazing residential I have ever been to. If you are ever going to throw your child into a residential, please look into that residential. Look into their reviews. Look at their past history with other clients. If you see other clients posting on their Facebook, 9 times out of 10 those clients are not lying. 9 times out of 10, when you see somebody posting on a facility's website about how rude, negligent, or abusive they are not lying to you. They have nothing to gain from that. We have nothing to gain as residential children telling you that these residentials are trash. We have nothing to gain. Um, and that's a big problem too, is that the state does not take into consideration that these kids are not lying to you. They're not lying to you. They're not telling you stories. Residentials can be just as bad as a home setting. And I hate to say that to you, but residentials can be just as abusive as a home setting. They can be just as dark, just as mean, just as bad. You can experience the same amount of abuse in a residential that you're experiencing at home. And sometimes it can even be more abuse in a residential than you're experiencing at home. When I was at home, I was the only child. My mom lost all four of her children at a very young age. I was the only child. I had my mom, my grandma, my grandpa, my aunt and uncle, my cousins. Like, I was the only kid. Unless I was with my cousins, then there were like a million other kids too. But I was the only kid for the longest time. I am my dad's only child biologically. I am my mom's firstborn and only child that she still talks to and has any communication with to this day. I am all she has. They're all I had. They're all I had. So when I got moved into the pavilion after trying to commit suicide by my Uncle Harold, I reached out to DCFS because I was again relinquished back to the Department of Children and Family Services. I let them know that I wished to seek out my family. I wanted to know them. I wanted to know my dad. I wanted to find him. I needed to talk to him. I hadn't seen my dad in years at that point. It had been literally years since I had seen my father. So at this point, it had literally been years since I've seen my dad. So I told the DCFS workers, I was like, okay, well, I would like to find my biological family, my dad specifically. I have not seen him since I was given to my cousin when I was 14 years old, and I would like to see my father. They find my dad, they get him in touch with me, and all is well. When I leave Pavilion, I have successfully graduated Pavilion. Um, I did everything that was expected of me and then some. I left the Pavilion in great graces. I still have no complaints to this day about the staff I was under. Um, they were amazing people. There are residentials in this world that will help you, and there are residentials in this world that will not do anything for you other than make life worse. Pavilion saved my life. Um, but because I was already 17 years old, or almost 17 years old at that point, they could not phase me back into a home setting. I was unadoptable. Which is fine. I was okay with it. And besides, going to a step down, which is a TLP, a transitional living program, was a great option for me. It could ensure that I had my own place paid for by the state. It can ensure that I went to college paid for by the state. It had perks, okay? It was like being a rewards member. But um it had perks. So I was like, yeah, sure, let's go for TLP. Like, I would love to be independent. I would love to live on my own. I would love to learn these skills and do what it takes to live on my own. So Susan and Cassie, my therapist and case manager, um, started seeking out a TLP arrangement for me because that's what I wanted to do. They found Chaddock. Chaddock is in Quincy, Illinois. It too is a residential treatment facility. It also has a TLP program and an ILO program. ILO is independent living opportunities. I was placed into Chaddock's TLP program in 2012. No, 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 I got out in 2012. I was placed there in 2010. I'm sorry, my apologies. I was placed into Chaddock in 2010 um, by DCFS, Department of Children and Family Services. I was placed there into a TLP program where I would learn to live on my own and eventually step down into ILO, and I would be done with the state. Or so I was being told, like, you would be discharged from the state We would leave you alone. You would be in charge of your own medication. You would be in charge of all of that. You would be in charge of yourself. Is what they told me when I went to Chaddock. So I get to Chaddock and everything is fine, and I'm a junior in high school. I'm finishing my junior year. I'm finally back in school. I'm finally getting my grades back up. Finally hitting those credits, getting it done. Just plowing through it. And graduation comes along in May for my senior year of high school. And mind you, within this whole year and a half of me being a junior and graduating, life was hell. Life was hell. Staff were rude. They were inconsiderate. The staff manager at my cottage was a male, and he was cottage managing over 15 females. Um, Big dude. Big dude. Bigger than me. Big dude. Um, just they didn't go about things the right way. If you needed something, you had to go through like a piece of paper that went to your therapist, that then went to your DCFS worker, that then went over to your case manager, and then you got your answer. Like, you couldn't just walk up to somebody and be like, hey, can I go into the storage unit and grab my favorite stuffed animal? You have to have permission to even have that stuffed animal before you can get that stuffed animal. And I'm supposed to be TLP at this point. Okay, so I'm not supposed to have these restrictions. I'm not supposed to have this whole, she can't have this in her room, she can't do this, she can't do that. Yet there are all these restrictions on me. All of them. Every single restriction you can think of, I was on it. I was at the back table more often than not. I was in a white room more often than not. The white room is a bedroom at the residential that they have converted into a hard bed with no mattress. No mattress. No pillow. No blanket, nothing on the walls, nothing on the floors. The bed's bolted to the floor. The windows are gated shut. Like, you are not going anywhere doing anything in this white room. You're not even going to lay down and get comfortable without getting a kink in your neck because there's nowhere for you to lay down. Life was just hell. The staff were rude. They were inconsiderate. They always thought about themselves. When they wanted, when they were supposed to get up and make us breakfast, they bitched about it more than they cooked. Oh, I cooked her breakfast yesterday. You cook her breakfast. No. You guys need to work together as a team to make them breakfast. They are in your residential. They are in your care. It is your job as the healthcare provider, anything to them. Home, clothes, food, a razor to shave their legs. Because I'm sorry, 17-year-old women, we get hair. We get a lot of hair. And when you're in TLP and you're not supposed to have all these restrictions, how is it that I couldn't even wash my own coochie without you paying attention to me? I have a fainting disorder that came about in Chaddock. It made itself very known in Chaddock. It had happened a few times at Pavilion, but it stopped, and I never thought much more of it because it stopped. It went away. So I have this fainting disorder that to this day, we are trying to figure out what's wrong with me, and this is part of the reason why I'm sitting here talking to you about this, is because this fainting disorder I would get up in the morning, go out to my staff members, grab my medication, turn around, and fall on the floor. They called that attention-seeking behavior. They told me I was lying. They sent me to school with a broken foot and didn't treat me for 3 days. 3 days. They let me sit there with a broken bone before they finally took my word for it. They never cared about me. I developed pneumonia my senior year. Had a fever of 103 and higher. Like, I was just miserable, okay? Like, I was sick. I was very sick. They just let me lay in bed. When I was puking, they just, she puked again. Yeah, Chaddock was not the place to be. It still isn't. And for some reason, this residential is backed by ambassadors. They have board trustees. They have sponsors. What I don't understand is how. I don't understand how a residential that is allowed to treat kids like total garbage, allowed to step on them and tell them when they can and cannot see their family, talk to their family. Just treat them like garbage. There was one little girl there that had MR. She is completely nonverbal. She had problems with continency. She could not take herself to the bathroom. It was like literally raising a 2-year-old, okay? And she was incontinent. She was my age and incontinent. They would let her sit in her pull up for days. I mean, practically, I mean, probably wasn't days, but hours. They would let that poor girl sit in her diaper. They didn't want to change her butt because, oh, we're staff members, we're just support staff, we don't get to do all that. Oh my God, they're diapers. No, you are the support staff. You're right about that. You're the support staff. So support them, please, before somebody sues you. Because that's the road you're headed down. When you put kids in a system, nowhere. They fall. They fall into a dark system. They get lost. Their files, they come up missing. Sioux City has destroyed all of my files illegally. I am a ward of the court, meaning that all of those files should have went back to DCFS, and they did not do that. Chaddock gives me crap to this day about accessing my files. They give me crap about talking to my staff members. They give me crap about talking with my peers. They give me the most crap they can think of. When I call to ask for records, there's usually a snide remark about, oh, well, how's life treating you since you emancipated yourself and ran away from Chaddock? I had to emancipate myself and run away from Chaddock. You were not going to let me out. You were not going to age me out like you should have. You were going to try and get an adult committal on me to throw me into a residential to keep me there till I was 25. They could have legally kept me till I was 25 had they gotten an adult committal on me. Okay, so yes, I ran away. Of course I ran away. Of course I ran away. By the time I graduated high school, they still had no plans for me. They wanted to throw me into another TLP that was just as obnoxious as the one I was already in at Chaddock. They did not want to step me down to ILO. They went back on all of their promises. Everything they were supposed to do for me, they didn't do. They didn't care about me. Chaddock, if you're watching this, you should be shut down because you're trash. You treat your kids like trash. You are trash. You are the reason these kids fall into a system. It's people like you, your residential, your protocols that make kids like me unable to access files, unable to access anything they need to get some answers. I have a fainting disorder and we can't put a finger on it. I can no longer access files because Sioux City destroyed them, or Chaddock doesn't want to cooperate with me. I'm sorry, but when you act like trash, you're gonna be treated like trash. I'm not gonna take the time out of my day after you have put me through hell. I am not going to take the time out of my day to sit here and tell you you're right, because you're not right. You're not right at all. These kids, they need you, and you are nowhere to be found. You are nowhere in sight. And that's sad. These families, they pay you thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars to house their children, to make them feel better, to help them feel better. And the most help you can provide is a restraint, a PRN, and a seclusion room. That's sad. I don't think residential should be allowed to place their hands on children. I don't think they should be allowed to inject children with PRNs. I think children should have to go through a very, very thorough psych evaluation before they are even placed into a residential treatment facility. Because like I said, some of those girls or the peers that you're there with, the kids that you're there with, they are far more dangerous than you. They have far many more problems than you will ever have. They can hurt you. They can stab you. They can get their hands on knives. They can get their hands on anything. I have seen so many fights break out in residential, it's unreal. I hope this has helped some of you. I hope that my story gets out there and reaches people, because you know what? You can come back from that. You can come back from being in a shitty residential. You can come back from being in a very shitty situation. You can bring yourself up. I don't need that residential to make my life better. If they don't want to give me my records, that's fine. We'll figure it out without them. But please know, before you put your children into residential, this right here, right here, is what you're signing them up for. You're signing them up to be lost in a system that nobody cares about them in. You're setting them up for failure. You're setting them up for financial failure. You should have plans for your children. If you're going to throw your children into a residential treatment facility, you need to have an aftercare plan. Always, 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 always have an aftercare plan. Because those kids, they're not just going to get better. Either way, I hope this helps. I hope this saves somebody, someone, anyone, the trouble of figuring out what it's like to be in residential.